Hello everybody, welcome to the Boxing Science podcast. This is episode 72. My name's Danny Wilson, strength and conditioning coach and co-founder of Boxing Science. Q&A sessions hosted on the Boxing Science podcast. A fantastic opportunity today to be answering your questions about a range of different subjects regarding sports science and strength and conditioning in boxing and combat sports. In this week's episode, I'm also going to be answering your comments that have been left on our YouTube videos. Sometimes it's quite difficult for me to get through all the comments and leave detailed answers. So in this week's episode, I'm going to be answering the questions in more detail to deal with your bespoke situations in terms of your training and coaching performance, but also to give you more clarity and understanding about the information that we share on our YouTube channel. In this week's episode, we're going to be covering a range of different subjects. How to manage strength and conditioning for amateur boxers when they haven't got bouts coming up. We're going to be talking about speed and power training for Muay Thai athletes. We're going to be going into more detail on how to manage and perform 30-second max out sprints on the air bike. And we're also going to be talking about how to manage your strength and high intensity conditioning over a training week. Before we get into it, I'd like to ask you a quick favor to support the growth of the channel so we can give you bigger and better content going forward. And that's very simple. Just hit that subscribe button, because we've noticed on these videos that only 30% of viewers actually subscribe to the channel, which means 70% of you watching this aren't currently subscribed. If we can get that closer towards a 50-50 split, then that will support the growth of the channel and help us give you even bigger and better content going forward. So hit that subscribe button before we get on with the episode, and let's get into it. Let's get into the Boxing Science podcast, episode 72. What strength and conditioning approach do you recommend for fighters without a set fight date? Those who need to stay ready in case of short notice call, or can they maintain conditioning without peaking too early or burning out? Appreciate your insight. So this is a really important area, something that we come across quite often, especially with amateur boxers, but also with professional boxers too. Some professional boxers only get 3-4 weeks notice before getting their confirmed fight date. It's very important to make sure that you're not burning out, not putting too much into your training camp, but also making sure that you're staying ready to be fit for that short call notice. And what I'd recommend is to just be training that adaptation rather than like just ticking over, because if you're just constantly ticking over, yeah, you're not going to overtrain, but you're also not going to be creating physical adaptations. So you still need to be working on maximum strength in a block for 3 to 5 weeks, and then moving on to strength speed, working on that for 3 to 4 weeks, and then have a period of speed strength training. So then you're constantly working these adaptations. Likewise with the conditioning. Prime example would be to do 30-second max out sprints, following up with some muscle buffering capacity work or some central adaptations, and then seeing whether we can start that cycle again. Main thing to consider to avoid overreaching, overtraining and burnout is to just be managing your training loads. So at Boxing Science, we focus on a 3-to-1 loading to deload strategy. So that means that we're having a period of 3 weeks where we're steadily increasing load. Then we have a week of recovery. So we're pushing the body, letting your body recover. Despite like how long that you're training for, you could be training for 12, 16, even 20 weeks without a fight date. You're going to be avoiding that overreach and overtraining because we're getting these structured deloads in place. A main thing probably to consider away from strength conditioning is the amount of sparring loads. You don't want to be doing weeks and weeks of sparring, getting wear and tear on the body. Maybe you're wanting to put in 1 sparring a week, 2 sparring a week, maybe changing the conditions of that, whether that's doing body sparring or tech sparring instead, and then having some open rounds rather than just doing week after week of open sparring, because this is going to be more damaging. So with the strength and conditioning and your high intensity conditioning, we can still be training and pushing our body and getting some adaptations there without burning out. But the main thing that you need to consider is your boxing training loads, your sparring loads, and trying to mix that up as well. And if you're still being in the gym and doing tech sparring and body sparring and you get that short call notice, it's going to be very easy to transition into a performance training camp. If you need any more help with this, drop me an email at dannywilson@boxingscience.co.uk, where you can get access to our bespoke training plans where we can help guide you through these longer training camps, but also dealing with these short call fights or amateur bouts. The next few questions are based off a recent video that we did on 30-second max out sprints, where we had super welterweight professional boxer Ishmael Davis taking part in one of our infamous, brutal, but most effective conditioning sessions. If you haven't seen this video, go and check it out. Got some questions around 30-second max out sprints. The first one, should I implement the air bike program whilst I build my aerobic base, or after I build a solid aerobic base? When we do the 30-second max out sprints, we have to be quite strategic in where we put this as part of a 10-12 week training plan. The key thing here is to make sure that the 30-second sprints are quite early in training camp. The athlete has more energy availability, so they're able to produce more power and being able to maintain that power during 30 seconds. So that means that we're going to be depleting the athletes more, and we're going to get a greater adaptation. Also, these 30-second max out sprints are very challenging, and you don't want the athlete to be coming in too fatigued from their boxing training, whilst also not trying to make them too fatigued for their boxing training as well. It's a difficult situation to manage when you're doing it in periods of like high sparring, training loads and everything like that. You're not going to get the most out of the workout, but also you're going to be having a negative effect on your boxing training. So we're trying to plan the 30-second max out sprint in the earliest parts of training camp. However, the problem with this is that an athlete might come in and be relatively under-conditioned. They might not be fit enough to be ready for these 30-second max out sprints. Again, that will affect the performance on the 30-second max out sprints and will affect the physical adaptations that we incur. So we need to get some level of fitness before we do the 30-second max out sprint. So if you're trying to put this into part of a training plan, I'll be building up some fitness, whether that's doing some pyramid conditioning, running, getting some central adaptations, working in the red zone, and then having some transitional work by doing some air bike pyramids where we're doing every minute on the minute. So that can be 50 seconds on, 10 seconds off, 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off, and then working towards a maximum effort of 10 seconds on, 50 seconds off. This is really effective in improving fitness and unlocking that speed and power to then take into being more effective during the 30-second max out sprints. And this process might be difficult to manage, and this is actually included in our Assault Bike Conditioning Program, which is currently a 50% discount. So if you're wanting to have more guidance around using the air bike, definitely go and check out the Assault Bike Conditioning Program by Boxing Science. The link is in the description. The next question is, during the recovery phase, do you stop activity or take active rest? So when you're doing 30-second max out efforts, we need the body to recover as effectively as possible because we're wanting to repeat and endure the highest amount of power that we can do. So you can see in the rest periods here with Ishmael, is that he's taking a long rest, is getting that air into his lungs, getting oxygen to the working muscles to be able to recover effectively, so then he can hit that peak intensity again. So when doing these 30-second max out sprints, make sure you put your feet up, have a sit down, try and get into the most comfortable position that you can. But what's really important then is to make sure that you're getting on the air bike with about 20 or 30 seconds to go, because an athlete needs to change its mindset from being really fatigued, trying to recover as best as possible, but then get themselves geared up and motivated to put in that maximum effort again. Next question is, how often should you do this as part of training week? My recommendation would be to do this either 2 or 3 times per week. Do this as part of a training program. We're wanting to get between 9 and 12 sessions in. Doing the 30-second max out sprint protocols between 3 and 4 weeks. And if we're doing it 2 or 3 times a week, we get enough sessions there to stimulate that adaptation. The final question about 30-second max out sprints is, would we do this after a boxing workout or would you do it on a separate day? Now, I would do this as a separate session, not on a separate day, because it'll be quite difficult to implement. Boxers have a heavy schedule with boxing and strength conditioning and the active recovery runs as well. They need to be doing like double sessions most days. So doing it on a separate day, that's not really right. As a separate session, I would absolutely do that, because with the 30-second max out sprints, they need that maximum power, that maximum intent to be effective. So if you're doing 30-second max out sprints at the end of a boxing session, your muscles are going to be depleted, you're going to be fatigued physically and mentally. You're not going to be able to reach that maximum power to really deplete that muscle cell to then promote these physical adaptations. So my recommendation would be to do the 30-second max out sprints quite early in training camp, where you're not going to be sparring, especially not doing it on a sparring day, but doing it in the morning where you're going to be fully fueled and ready to go. You can do it in the afternoon, but I've seen lesser results doing it in the afternoon than I would do doing it in the morning. Like I say, go and check out that video, Ishmael Davis putting his body on the line for your entertainment, and also some education pieces in there as well. If you're wanting to find out more about how we structure our assault bike conditioning protocols, go and check out that assault bike conditioning program by Boxing Science. It's currently running at a 50% discount. Go and check out the link in the description. Okay, the next question is something that I get asked quite a lot. What is the wire or what is the band that's attached to the bar that's giving you feedback on the power and the velocity? This is a linear precision transducer, LPT for short. This attaches to the barbell or the trap bar, where we're going to be assessing lifting velocities during our strength and conditioning programs. Now, this is really important to be assessing an athlete's lifting velocity so we can monitor their progress. We create more speed and intent during our lifts. We can also go to certain lifting zones when we're wanting to work on maximum strength. We want to go a little bit slower. When we're working at strength speed values, wanting that to be a certain meters per second. And we also use it in terms of our assessments. We use it for our landmine punch throw assessment, where we're assessing an athlete's ability to produce force and speed in a punching action. And we also use it for our load velocity profiling, where we're using the trap bar deadlift and we're monitoring an athlete's performance from lighter loads to heavier loads and seeing how they respond as part of a profile to then determine an athlete's 1 rep max, to determine what they need to work on in terms of maximum strength or strength speed, what kind of exercises that they need to use, and also what lifting velocities that they should be at different percentage 1 rep maxes. So it's giving us accuracy, giving our athletes motivation, and also tracking progress in a really effective way. The GymAware is a gold standard method to be monitoring velocity-based training. We highly recommend this product. So if you want to find out more information, left a link in the description to find out more about GymAware and their products, because they've got the GymAware RS unit. They've also got the GymAware Flex unit as well. So go and check that out. The link is in the description. Can you make a week training regimen covering cardio and strength? At Boxing Science, it all depends on the athlete in terms of what their schedule is set by their boxing coach, what their availability is. Are they full-time, part-time athletes? Do they have different work commitments? What's their training availability like? So it's very difficult for me to go, right, this is the black and white answer, because this is why our bespoke training plans for athletes that come into the Boxing Science Performance Centre or online are so important, because we can manage the training around you. This is a very blanket response in terms of like a full-time athlete. We would be doing 3 high-intensity conditioning sessions per week and 2 strength conditioning sessions per week. We would do strength conditioning on a Monday, high-intensity conditioning on a Tuesday. We have an active recovery day on the Wednesday. On Thursday, we're back to doing our strength conditioning. Friday, we'll do a high-intensity conditioning to round off the week. And then we'd do a high-intensity conditioning session either on the Saturday or the Sunday. This is a very blanket approach. If you're wanting more structure towards your training, go and check out the Boxing Science website. We've got our Train Like a Champion membership, where you can access the Train Like a Champion program, where we help structure your strength and conditioning in the best way possible. This is a general approach. If you're wanting more information about our bespoke programs, go and check out the Boxing Science website. Okay, so this next comment is on our video, 5 lower body power exercises for boxing. What does dropping the weights before jumping to the box really do? What this is accentuated jump training, and this is overloading the eccentric portion of a jump. Now, this is really important because this helps increase the stretch reflex and almost like tricks your body into being able to produce more power during the concentric action. There's a lot of different research that shows that this actually increases vertical rate of force development and jump height. It's really important for boxers and combat sports athletes to do, because our research on the Boxing Science testing battery, we've seen a very low difference between the counter movement jump and the squat jump test. That small difference shows that an athlete is really struggling with the downward phase of the jump, needing to find different ways in overloading that eccentric portion of the jump. We can do this by doing some repeated counter movement jumps, some depth jumps, some dumbbell jumps, and then moving on to the accentuated jumps. These are really advanced plyometric. We only use this with our more advanced athletes on the program, but we can get some really good adaptations. Often do this with dumbbells, jumping up onto the box. We can do it with dumbbells, just jumping up to the side, but just really make sure that you're really dropping them outside to avoid any injuries. And we also like the banded variation as well, because the banded variation, you're getting two really good jumps out of it. You're going to get a banded counter movement jump, which is going to help increase acceleration and rate of force development. You're then getting the eccentric portion by dropping down and then driving up into that counter movement jump. Are your exercises for speed and power also good for Muay Thai fighters? Yeah, I would absolutely recommend some of our strength and conditioning practices to help Muay Thai athletes. I'd be saying like there's some different variations that might put into a bespoke plan, a little bit more lower body conditioning, more hamstring conditioning to help with kicking, but also you're looking at like elbows as well. So you'll be looking at some sort of like shoulder strengthening in different ranges of motion, working more serratus anterior, working on external internal rotation exercises as well. And then just like working like kind of bicep and tricep activation, doing a lot more arm training with Muay Thai athletes. And then with the lower body explosiveness is really important. So be looking to do very similar exercises, but with Muay Thai athletes, they're going to be a lot more explosive through the lower body and ready for more advanced plyometrics, using stuff like accentuated dumbbell jumps, accentuated banded jumps, banded counter movement jumps, and also doing some depth jump variations as well. Because with Muay Thai athletes, they really need to work on that eccentric and coiling whilst doing the kicks. Boxers need it. Very low difference between counter movement jump and squat jump height, showing that very low difference suggests poor eccentric utilization. But from a performance standpoint, in terms of technical perspective, Muay Thai fighters need that even more. But the potential might be more ready to be able to be exposed to more advanced plyometrics. Okay guys, so that is the end of this week's episode of the Boxing Science Podcast. Thank you very much for watching or listening. Quick favour before you go, if not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button so don't miss out on any future content. And also go check out the Boxing Science website for a range of online products and services. See how you can get involved with the blueprint to elite performance. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully see you on the next episode of the Boxing Science Podcast.